Okay, here's where we are with the drive array. So now, when I set up the Drobo in the first place, and I had put, I think 3 drives in it. I don't remember, it was 3 or 4 drives in it. But anyway, when I started out, the drives that I put in there were old, used drives. They'd been in the enclosures. I'd been using them for backups and storage for quite some time. So what is their life expectancy? Who knows? So that was a little bit of a gamble. Not too terribly long ago, well, I haven't had the Drobo for too terribly long, so shortly after I got the Drobo, maybe right after I got the Drobo, that's right. Right after I got the Drobo, I had to go out and buy another hard drive because one of the drives I thought I was going to use, I couldn't. And so I got a 5, the others were 3 terabyte drives, and I got a 5 terabyte drive, which I put in there, which was brand new. So now the one that failed first, drive 3, was one of those old drives. There you go. And that gave me my experience on what recovery on a Drobo is like. It tells you it's in data protection mode. It warns you if you lose another drive, your life's over, and to get a new one in there. So when you put a new one in there, okay, that's good. It's going to recover because that's how RAIDs work. I've had this done a bazillion times at work. It's kind of slow. It took almost 24 hours to recover. But when I was done, I had more capacity because I had put in a 5 terabyte replacement drive instead of the 3 that was in there. And as you saw, within 6 hours, another drive had failed. That was drive 4. That was the new drive that I bought when I got the Drobo, which, unfortunately, because of the deal that Costco has, which is ridiculously cheap for a 5 terabyte Seagate drive, they're in enclosures, which I don't need. The ones out of enclosures are more expensive, and they're the exact same drive. So, of course, I buy the ones in the enclosures and pop them out. Well, the second you pop them out, the warranty is gone. So, nothing I can really do about that drive 4 that went bad, even though it's a new drive. That's a downside that I wasn't expecting. But of course, having 2 drives fail on me that quickly leads me to one of 2 conclusions. The first is dumb luck, and considering how this past few weeks have gone, I can buy that. Or 2, they didn't really go bad. The Drobo's misreporting them as bad. If that latter is the case, then there's a problem with the Drobo. So I'm not sure. Anyway, I got another 5 terabyte drive. I put it in yesterday, and just about half an hour to an hour ago, it finished. And I'm back to full protection mode. Now, Drobo allows you to operate in 2 modes. One is 1 drive redundancy, and the other is 2 drive redundancy. So I also picked up a 2nd drive yesterday, and now that it's done recovering the data and getting me back to a protected state, I have installed the extra drive, drive 5, and I have set the system to dual drive redundancy, which unfortunately is going to take just as long to reallocate as it did the last 2 times. So the machine is going to be thrashing along for another 24 hours, which I might point out may have been what caused drive 4 to fail in the first place, was the heavy load placed on it for rebuilding the RAID array. So, I mean, that is a possibility. Anyway, given that now understanding that it's going to be almost 24 hours of rebuild, dual driver redundancy is necessary. I've also taken the added precaution of putting the dates on the fronts of the drives now, so I know when they were installed new. Which is pretty sad because looking over here, that's July 11th, July 12th, July 13th. You should not be looking at a series of replacement drives one day apart across the board. However, this has been an eye-opening experience for me. I shall be continuing to study my data security plans as we move forward. Okay, I call bullshit. This has got to be the Drobo itself failing. Now this is... I'm on the phone now to Drobo. I'm sitting in my wife's side of the chair, since they're not here. More on that later. So this is where I got into that thing I was telling you basically last time about how I'm recording these out of order because I've had a very, 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 very stressful week, and frankly there were times when I was blowing a gasket that I just didn't record the video. So I've been going back through the pieces and going, oh yes, here's a huge gap where it's not explanation. So what you just saw was the Drobo with a red light flashing, and maybe it wasn't clear what had happened. As I had told you, I completed the recovery of the 2 bad drives. I put in the extra drive so that I would have the 2 drive redundancy, and during the 24-hour period while it was rebuilding for that, the first replacement drive that I put in on Monday died. First, it said it had been ejected when it hadn't, and it came back maybe 10 minutes later, and then 20 minutes later it died again, and that was it. So again, I was already feeling that this might be a Drobo problem, not a drive problem, because 3 drives in 3 days now seems a bit much. You know, trying to look at the commonality, and that is the controller. So I started to open a support ticket with Drobo because I had there's Drobo Care, which is an extended warranty, will replace Drobo and they'll help you recover data, etc. Which I was very worried that I was going to be in that situation very soon. And I had set a reminder to buy it as my Drobo warranty was running out. And I missed my reminder. So I'm on the phone. I comically funny, I'm calling them on my iPhone because I can use my Bluetooth headset and I can be in talking to them. And they've got one of those things, if it's transporter support, press 1, if it's Drobo support, press 2. And I would press 2 and nothing would happen. You know how sometimes the phone just won't recognize the DTMF code from a phone unless you just get it right? And I mean, I was popping a gasket. I was uncharacteristically out of control. My blood pressure must have been through the ceiling. I was really freaking out. So I hung up, and then I called back with a phone, the corded phone, which we talked about during my 911 call to the thing, where I can't actually get over to the computer or anything. And I was on hold for a long period of time, and so I was trying to find another way, and that's when I looked through my messages, and that's when I found out that my 90-day warranty had in fact expired, and that my reminder had been set for the day after they smashed into my wall, which is probably why it slipped my mind or I didn't see it. And so my warranty had expired. But I had the email that said, hey, do you want to buy the extended warranty? And I thought, I'm going to risk it. So I hit the button. I said, sure, buy the extended warranty. Figuring it would say, no, you waited too long. We're not going to let you buy an extended warranty after the thing breaks, which is kind of what's happening. But it took it. So then I was back on the phone to them. And this time I tried the phone again, and this time it worked, the iPhone, and it worked. So I got through to them, and they, listened to my story, which as you've heard, is quite convoluted with the drive here and then a drive there and then the redundancy drive there and then the back to the 5. I mean, it's a long story, and I didn't really expect them to get it right. But it turns out there was some Drobo diagnostic tools, and it was, at this point, it was still saying it was recovering because it was still doing, I think, the first rebuild, but now it's up to 300 hours. It was a ridiculously long time that it was going to take, and so they had me run some diagnostics and send them this very large diagnostic package, and sent it on to level 2 for evaluation. In the meantime, let it keep going. Of course, my Mac pulled that same thing it did the other day, and Finder locked up, going for the blood pressure. I mean, the universe is seriously trying to give me a stroke this week. Seriously trying to give me a stroke this week. And after they had analyzed it, they still think it's drive failure. And I'm not 100% sure whether that's, it's their fault, it's not my fault, or whether that's what the diagnostics really say. I'm going to try to run with the assumption that they're right. So it was a course of action, let it finish. Now, it has been speeding up, but it was still 160 plus hours, which is a very long time to thrash those drives continuously. And then what was I supposed to do afterwards? Turn it all, shut it down, turn it all off, remove all the drives, and push them back in and reseat them. But unlike the other times when the number was very high and then it progressed down quickly, that is not the case with the rebuild. I was able, because fortunately my machine wasn't in screensaver mode when it locked up, I was able to do a controlled shutdown on my computer, which does not affect the Drobo rebuild. And so I was pleased about that, because I was able to detach my computer and get it restarted and then get it hooked back up and get the diagnostics. But so I went back to him and I said, how long, it's 161 hours. How long am I supposed to go on with this? And they said, let it finish. I'm like, how is it going to finish? It's never going to finish. I mean, when it completes rebuilding the first drive, it's still going to be in data protection mode because there's a failed drive. I was not happy, but then I was not happy about a lot of things. So anyway, today I said, screw it. And I went to Fry's Electronics and I picked up a Western Digital drive, NAS rated 6 terabyte drive for way too much money, and brought it in and plugged it in where the bad drive was. And it's brought that up, and it's green, and the recovery time has dropped to 50 hours now, which I'm very happy about, the recovery time dropping to 50 hours. I'd like to see it drop to 0 hours very quickly, but it hasn't yet. But yeah, I've been freaking out about the data now, and yeah, I'm just freaking out about it. Well, we're at Costco, and now I realize I'm telling this story out of order. But I'm returning one of the drives. I bought three now drives at Costco in the last week, since Monday. So I decided that I would do something I swore I'd never do again. I bought a Western Digital NAS rated drive, and I pulled that first drive that I put in there Monday, which was dead anyway, and I packed it up and I took it back to Costco. Of course, it had been removed from the casing, but I put it back in the casing and took it back, and they replaced it. Well, they didn't replace it, they refunded it. That's something, not a complete money sink. Well, that narrative was a mess, wasn't it? And that does kind of explain my week. There's been stuff. There's been other stuff. Stuff I won't even go into. That's just, not to do with it. I mean, I'll do into the stuff with the house and with camp and stuff, but not in this vlog. This vlog's about the Drobo. Before anyone says it, I have a lot of years of experience with computers, and there may be those who say, well, you would never use a desktop grade hard drive in a NAS solution, and that's not true. Typically, if you were in an enterprise class situation, like at a server farm or something that's constantly in use, then that would certainly be a mistake. It's not so much the fact that it's in a NAS, it's in the fact that the nature of a NAS is that you would typically have a lot of activity going on. But that's not true with this Drobo. The vast majority of it is not being moved about. It's not under multi-user access. It's actually attached to a laptop, which means that it's only when the laptop's sitting at my desk am I using it. And technically, really, for the most part, the only time I'm ever using it is when I'm doing video work. So it's really not getting a NAS grade workout. The only time it's getting it is during this rebuild cycle. And that is the slowest NAS rebuild cycle I've ever seen in my life. So yes, I probably will replace these drives with NAS grade drives as they go out from this point forward, but they don't get that kind of workout on a day-to-day basis, and that's why I gambled, admittedly, to some degree, with the quality of the drives. But you know something, those drives ought to have lasted better than that anyway. The operational hours just isn't there for the failure rate. So unless there is something else going on, I don't know. Anyway, when I went to bed last night at 1 a.m., yes, I went to bed at 1 a.m., there were 51 hours left on the rebuild. When I got up at 9 a.m., and I didn't want to get up at 9 a.m., I got a phone call at 9 a.m., which was an 8-hour sleep. The Drobo was sitting at 35 hours, which is a 16-hour difference, so that's really good. If it's running at 2 to 1, I'll be really happy. Unfortunately, it's now noon, so it's been 3 more hours, and the Drobo is down to 31 hours. So it's only picked up 4 hours in 3 hours of recovery time, and at that point we could just be talking about, in a minute or two, it'll switch over to 30 hours, or it might have just switched over to 31 hours. So I don't know. You know, it's still got a long way to go, but it's a lot better than the hundreds of hours that it was. So that is going to be it for the Drobo. I'm going to leave that be. You'll probably get a hallelujah video when it's finished, and I'm certainly hoping that there'll be a hallelujah video when it's finished. But yeah, it's not. That's not the most ringing endorsement of the Drobo so far, but it could be the drives, and that could be me, and so I'm not casting blame, but man, is it giving me stress. So find out next time where what the situation on my house is. There's no exciting footage for that one. It's pretty darn boring. It's going to be me talking, but maybe I'll try to show some pictures of bricks or something. But you'll find out where we are on that one in the next episode of Tedium Unlimited. So remember to like, comment, and subscribe. I've never done that with a pen before. Fancy, huh? Like presentation aids.